In the quiet town of Ntunja, nestled between green hills and rustling cassava fields, lived two girls whose bond was as deep as blood. Mandie and Rosa were born just a month apart. Their mothers were neighbors, sharing everything from cooking pots to gossip under the mango tree. Naturally, their daughters became inseparable. From the age of 5, Mandie and Rosa did everything together, chasing grasshoppers in the fields, braiding each other's hair, and even pretending to run a marketplace beneath the neem tree. At school, they sat side by side. If Mandie had bread and Rosa didn't, they would tear it in half. If Rosa was bullied, Mandie stood up for her. Their bond was so strong that elders in the village often said, even twins do not walk so closely. As they grew older, their paths began to diverge, but their friendship held firm. Rosa, ever the romantic, fell in love early. At just 22, she married a handsome teacher named Ben. She had 2 children by 26 and settled into family life with joy and pride. Mandie, on the other hand, chased opportunity. She started a clothing business that grew into a boutique, then opened a chain of herbal skincare shops. While she had suitors, none stirred her enough to slow down. Yet, every weekend, no matter how busy she was, Mandie would find time to visit Rosa. They would talk for hours, about the children, village news, dreams they once had. Their bond had matured but never faded. Then one rainy season, everything changed. Rosa fell ill. First, it was fatigue, then persistent coughs, then unexplained weight loss. Tests in the town clinic showed nothing. So they traveled to the city. Hospitals, labs, specialists. Still, no cure. They tried traditional healers. Herbal baths. Steam therapies. Nothing worked. Mandie was by Rosa's side through it all. She drove her to appointments, bathed her when she was weak, helped with the children, even cooked Ben's favorite egusi soup when Rosa couldn't. And over those long nights, Mandie and Ben, both tired, emotional, and vulnerable, began to share glances. Words. Feelings they never expected. It started with subtle tension. Lingering looks, hands brushing unintentionally. Then Ben confessed one evening, while Rosa lay sleeping. Mandie, I know it's wrong, but I can't lie to myself. There's something here between us. Mandie was horrified. You're married to Rosa. My sister. Don't ever say that again, she whispered, shaken. The guilt haunted her. She began avoiding the house. She sent money through Ben but stopped visiting. Rosa, weak and confused, thought Mandie had abandoned her in her final days. When she called, Mandie would mumble excuses. Business is crazy right now. I'll come soon, I promise. Then, one dry harmattan morning, Mandie received an urgent message from Ben. Rosa was calling for her. Desperately. Mandie rushed to the house she had once entered daily. Rosa lay on the bed like a shadow of herself. Frail, with sunken eyes, but her spirit burned bright. She smiled faintly. Mandie, my sister. You came. Mandie knelt by the bed, her throat tight with guilt and sorrow. I'm sorry, Rosa. I should have come sooner. Rosa waved it off with her trembling hand. Don't apologize. I need you to listen. I don't have much time. I have something I must ask of you. Mandie leaned in. Rosa continued, her voice barely a whisper. Ben. I want you to marry him. After I'm gone. Mandie's eyes widened. What? Rosa, you're not dying. Don't say that. And even if. Let me finish, Rosa interrupted. There's something you don't know. A secret I've kept for 15 years. Mandie's heart pounded. Rosa's eyes filled with tears. Ben was never just mine. Before we married, he was yours. Mandie reeled. What are you saying? Rosa coughed hard, then steadied herself. You remember in secondary school, I told you about a secret admirer who wanted to meet you, but before that could happen, his parents relocated and he did not return to school after the Christmas holidays? The one who left for the city. Mandie nodded, her mind racing. That was Ben. He changed his name when he returned to the village to teach. He knew who you were. But by then, you were in the city building your business. I met him. And I lied. I told him you had married a rich man abroad. I showed him photos of you with some client at a trade event. I said you'd moved on. Mandie gasped. Her childhood admirer she never met, but longed to meet. The one who vanished without a word. Had been living in her own town all this while. Married to her best friend. Why, she choked out. Because I loved him. And I was jealous. You always had ambition. Brilliance. I wanted something for myself. Something you couldn't have. Rosa closed her eyes, pain etched into her face. And I got him. But he never truly loved me, Mandie. I know that now. Tears streamed down Mandie's face. Her world was unraveling. I'm not asking you to betray me, Rosa said softly. I'm asking you to forgive me. And to take care of him. Of my children. Let this be your family too. If you can find it in your heart. Mandie stood frozen. A storm of emotions raged inside her. Anger, grief, confusion, compassion. Part of her wanted to scream. Part of her wanted to run. But a deeper part, the part shaped by their years of laughter and shared mangoes under the tree, chose silence. Rosa passed away 3 days later. After Rosa's funeral, life moved on in the town of Ntunja, as life always does. The morning faded into memories, the children grew taller, and the dust of the harmattan was replaced by the early rains. But for Mandie, something remained stuck inside her. A quiet ache, like a thorn she couldn't pull out. She did not move into Rosa's home, despite whispers from elders suggesting it was the proper thing to do. She offered help whenever Ben needed it. Sending meals, and showing up at parent-teacher meetings when Ben was too tired or busy. But she kept a deliberate distance. Shortly after the funeral, Mandie met someone. A banker named Yusuf, gentle and intelligent, with an elegant charm. They met at a friend's birthday celebration. Yusuf brought a kind of ease she hadn't felt in years. He made her laugh, listened well, and respected her independence. They dated for 2 years. On paper, it should have worked. But Rosa's betrayal had built an invisible wall around her heart. Mandie tried to love Yusuf fully, but every time he reached into the depths of her emotions, he'd meet silence. She hadn't truly healed. And beneath it all, the memory of Ben lingered. Not in a romantic way, but in a hauntingly unresolved one. Eventually, Yusuf gave up. You're holding on to something, or someone, he told her gently one evening. And I can't keep fighting shadows. Mandie let him go, with no bitterness. She stayed single after that, not out of sadness, but out of choice. Ben never remarried. He raised his children with quiet devotion, threw himself into his teaching, and became known across the region for mentoring orphan boys and hosting youth workshops. He and Mandie kept their distance for a long while. Not enemies, not strangers, but unsettled. Until 7 years after Rosa's death, when they found themselves at the same literacy conference. Ben was giving a talk on education. Mandie was there showcasing a new initiative for local female entrepreneurs. They saw each other across the courtyard, both older, wiser, with softer eyes. Mandie. Ben. A pause. You look well. So do you. That evening, they sat under the trees on the conference grounds and talked for hours. Not about Rosa. Not about the past. Just life. Business. The children. Hopes. Fears. From that night, a new kind of relationship bloomed. Not romantic. Not merely friendly. Something deeper. More sacred. A companionship built not on passion, but on understanding. A quiet love that required no label. They became each other's constants. When Ben's son had trouble with mathematics, it was Mandie who hired a private tutor. When Mandie's business was raided by tax officers on false claims, Ben took a 6-hour bus ride just to sit with her through the hearings. Every New Year's Eve, they shared a meal together, reflecting on the past and writing their hopes on small strips of paper, then burning them under the stars. On Rosa's death anniversaries, they lit a candle together, said nothing, and sat in silence. Their friendship was filled with gestures that didn't require grand announcements. When Mandie had a minor surgery, Ben stayed overnight in the hospital corridor. When Ben's daughter graduated university, it was Mandie who designed her dress, took the photos, and organized the celebration. They traveled together. Not as a couple, but as companions. To Cape Coast. To Lomé. To Zanzibar once. Always booking separate rooms, but always returning from those trips a little more healed, a little more whole. The town gossiped, of course. Are they lovers? Why won't they just marry? But neither Mandie nor Ben ever answered. Theirs was a relationship that existed outside expectation. A friendship stitched together by pain, betrayal, forgiveness, and finally, peace. In his 70s, Ben retired and began writing children's books. His first was titled The Baobab and the Mango Tree, about two trees that grew apart, then bent toward each other again in old age, sharing roots under the soil. He dedicated it to M for growing with me. One rainy afternoon, they sat on Mandie's veranda, sipping herbal tea as thunder rolled gently in the distance. Ben turned to her and asked, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had married?" Mandie smiled. "We might have ruined what we have." He chuckled. "Maybe. But maybe, we did all right anyway." She looked at him with warm eyes. "We did more than all right, Ben. We survived it all. And stayed kind." True friendship is tested not only by loyalty but by forgiveness. Secrets, no matter how deeply buried, always find their way to the surface. And sometimes, love must surrender to truth for healing to begin. Not all love is meant to bloom like roses. Some loves grow slow and silent, like roots beneath the soil, steady and strong. True connection isn't always about romance. Sometimes, it's about walking together through pain, forgiving the past, and finding peace in the space between. What is your takeaway from this story? Comment below. Like, share and subscribe for more stories that entertain, inspire and uplift.